How long have you been trying to be a real estate investor? How long have you been looking at houses and doing a lot of busy work and not making anything happen? Well, if you want to learn how to get your first deal in the next 90 days, you want to hang around. So we'll be back in
30 seconds.
Is it 30 seconds now?
I think so.
Okay. We'll be back 30 seconds. Good morning, Deed Grabbers. Welcome. Welcome to Go Talk. Today's Tuesday, April 2nd.
I know.
Yeah.
You can't believe anything. You can't believe anything you see on Facebook yesterday.
That's right. Nothing. How many I quits and everything else did we see? And some of them always catch me.
And some of I know there was one that said like this grocery store in town was flooded or something, and I'm like, wow. And then that was just like that was just silly.
Yeah,
anyway.
It's really crazy. Well, today,
but we're back to normal now.
Yeah, back to normal. First quarter's gone. Second quarter's here. First quarter of the year, man, it'll be Christmas before you know it.
I know, right?
About Christmas and everything that's going on. But today, we're going to talk about getting your first deal. Before we get started, if you're out there with us, we'd love for you to say good morning. Let us know who you are, where you are, so we can say good morning to you. Hey, Kevin Mitchell, good to see you. Not sure where you're located, but we're glad you could join us today. Man, we're going way back today in the way back machine to talk about Jody's first Sub2 deal. So it's really Jody's show today.
Well, so this was before we were married or dating or anything. I joined this coaching group, which turned out to be a pretty good deal. And I joined this group in May, I think.
I think so.
And I had my first deal under contract on July 3rd. So less than 90 days. Now, I was in another mentoring program too, and I didn't participate in that one as much. So I didn't get as much out of that, except for that the mentor that I had before said, in this market, which was Colorado at the time, that Sub2 is probably the way I should go. And I'm like, oh, dang it.
Because
Sub2.
Because you had a lengthy history at the time. You had been investing for over 10 years. You had done several short sales and
I did short sales, and mostly what I did was I bought REOs, bank-owned properties, after foreclosure. I bought those and just flipped them to homeowners, like fixer-uppers. If they weren't too bad, I would just resell them to a homeowner for just, still a good price for them, but then I made a little bit of spread in between. So my biggest deal doing all those things was $20,000. It wasn't. I thought that was great, honestly. At the time, I thought that was a good profit. My first one was $6,000, and I was like not happy about that. But I was like, I learned how to do a short sale and made $6,000 learning it. So I thought that was still cool.
And that's not nothing for those of you guys, and most people that are with us are here because they enjoy creative finance or they're interested in that. Right. But and for years, my favorite saying was, I would rather straddle and slide down a razor blade than do a short sale, because if you've ever done one, it's a pressure cooker. I mean, you're in constant negotiation. There are a million steps. I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong here.
Yes, there is. You send a packet in and it's like 40 pages long because they need this and this and this and this and this. And if you don't do it right, they reject it. And it's a pain, but I just, the the lesson in both of these scenarios is that if you just do what you're told, you'll do a deal. So I followed the short sale course that I had, and I just did every step. I looked at this book. It was like 300 pages long, this course. And I was like, oh man, it's so much. And I thought, I'm just going to start on the first step. I'm going to do it. And then whatever the second step is, I'm going to do it. And so I just kept going. And all of a sudden, you know, I sent out letters, and a guy called me, and he was fine with what we were going to do. I contacted the bank, followed along. It took a couple, 2 or 3 months. And then the bank sent me an email saying, you know, you're good to go. Close in 14 days. And I'm like, you know,
that's the thing about short sale. It's constant denial. We need this, we need that, drag. Then, okay, we'll do it. You got 5 minutes to close.
That's right.
You know.
So I did find, you know, so I put it on the MLS immediately. I was licensed at the time, so I put it up myself. And I got a buyer that kind of lowballed me. I thought I could probably make $25,000 as is. It was really in good shape, but basically I thought I could get $25,000. They kind of lowballed me because they knew I was in a hurry. And I ended up with a check for like $6,000. But I remember asking in the news group, which was your guys' news group, should I take this deal? Should I take this? I have this much time to close. And everybody said, just take it. Just take it. It's your first deal. Just take it.
Right.
So I did, and I got my check for $6,000, and that was great. But the reason I got it done is because I just did what I was told to do. Just follow the steps. Somebody who knew better than me knew how to do it, and I didn't. So I did what they told me. And
that's such an important lesson here.
It is. And that's how I did my Sub2 deal too. So yeah.
Just that one thing. How many times, because Jody and I coach countless people, and how many times, I mean, and somebody comes in, they do a third of what you tell them to do. They argue with you they ask for advice. They argue with your advice. They find 1,000 reasons why what you're telling them.
Or they modify things like, I want to do it this way.
And the next thing you know, they're on to somebody else, another course.
And they're like, well, it doesn't work.
Right.
You know, so they quit because it didn't work. And, you know, it's because they didn't use the proven method.
That's right.
They decided they knew better and took things into their own hands and made changes, you know? So anyway, so that's how I did my first deal. And then I did, you know, like I said, then I started flipping REOs, which was easier than short sales.
Right.
And my biggest one was 20,000. I moved to Colorado. I get this advice from my mentor that I had there to do Sub2s. And I didn't want to, because I remember 10 years earlier, I was in this news group where William Tingle was one of the teachers. There was 4, but he was one of them. And his technique was to take over these deeds. And I was just like, who's going to do that?
Who's going to do that?
Who's going to hand over a deed and then just keep that loan in their name? What idiot would do that? That's not going to work. I figured that'd be like 1 in a million chance that would ever happen. So I just never had any interest. So when this other guy told me you should do that, that's what the market kind of calls for here, you know, I was like, and so I wanted more information. So I started looking around on Facebook for, you know, other teachers. And so I could learn more, because the guy the mentor I had, Mike, he was great. He did he was great, but he just wasn't as available. I wanted to just like ask questions all the time. And he was not as much like that at the time. I think he was, he used to do that more, but now it was more like just once a month kind of thing. So I found 2 other Facebook groups. One wasn't that helpful. And then I found William's, and I'm like, oh, I know William. I remember William. He'd been gone for a long time. I didn't even know if he was still alive. And so I joined that group. I joined that group in May. And like I said, I followed what he said to do. I bought the course. I didn't read it, honestly, as much as I should have, because I just asked questions in the group.
That's a fact, because when I eventually got to know Jody and moved to Colorado, it was still wrapped in cellophane. Part of it was. Now, one part was open, but the rest was.
It's because you were so accessible though that I thought I'm just going to ask you directly because I don't have to find where it is in the book. So I just started doing what you told me to do, and I put an ad in the Facebook. What do you call them? Community groups, like.
Yeah, and Jody's gonna share all that with us here in just a minute.
The group I put it in was like Army Wives.
Mm-hmm.
It was an Army Wives Facebook group where they just all shared information. I posted it in there, and somebody called me, and I got a deal that they just wanted to give me, and I'm like, wow, can't believe that. So anyway, yeah, I can do that right now, actually.
Yeah. While she's pulling that up, we've got a few more people on here that have joined us. We're going to say good morning, Tara in Louisville, Kentucky. Good to see you. Amanda's back from Utah. Good to see Amanda. How's that baby doing? Hope you guys are doing well. Daryl's in Houston, Facebook user. Good morning to you, Ryan Gallagher. I haven't seen much with Ryan lately. Ryan's busy playing with that little baby he's got, and just having a good time down there in Florida. We got Roy from Wichita. Juan, good to see you, Juan. I think Juan, we may see you tonight. In the $7 group calls. All right, so fantastic. If you guys have any questions about Jody's deal, she's going to walk us through that thing here, and you'll see what we tell you constantly, and that's that there is no magic to any of this. If you just take some simple steps in 30, 60 days, you guys can be on here telling the same story. I guarantee you it is a mathematical certainty. But if you have any questions about her deal, feel free to pop those in here. We're going to get to all the questions before we end the call today. And also any other creative finance questions that you may have. So if you're working on a deal, you got a question about it, just let us know, and we'll be glad to talk about that too. So anyway, I'm getting in Jody's way. She's telling her story. Look at that house, man. Is that a beautiful house? Would somebody give you that house?
It was only 3 or 4 years old.
Yep.
It was really sort of in good shape. I will say that the sellers were a little hard on it, but like I said, I posted that ad in Facebook, and this girl called me.
And now, Jody's not a trust fund baby. Did you have a whole lot of money to do your real estate investing?
And that's why I decided to go with the Facebook groups, because there were $0.
Right.
It cost me nothing to go in and find. I just joined a bunch of community Colorado Springs groups and started posting. It's later in the slides here what ad I put in there, and maybe it's the next one. But yeah, I didn't have a lot of money for marketing, so I just went this route. So anyway, she messaged me. She said that they were in foreclosure. They were 6 or 7 months behind, something like that. And they were also getting a divorce. 2 of those,
right.
What do you call them?
Yeah. Those factors, those motivating factors.
Oh yeah, here it is.
Oh, and here's the top secret ad.
Yeah, this is the ad I put in there. So looking for a house to buy. I put it in the, what do you call it? The sell mode, instead of like a post. And so I put free because there's no dollar, So I put, good morning. I'm looking for a house to buy in Colorado Springs. I can pay your full asking price and you don't need to fix or clean anything. I can close anytime and pay all the closing costs. Not looking for an agent because, you get bombarded. Message me, thanks. That's all it was. It was super, super plain and simple. And it was not professional sounding or, corporate sounding. It sounded like just a normal person, right?
And that's an actual screenshot, and you can tell
that is the ad that she replied to.
How many groups did you post that ad into?
Well, I think I only had about 4 or 5, but I could have put more. I was just getting responses.
Right. And how long was it live before she contacted you?
Well, I kept reposting, so I'm not sure. I'd say I'd been posting probably for a couple weeks, probably a month.
But zero marketing dollars. I mean, you spent nothing.
I posted, and I got a lot of I got a lot of people saying, this is a scam and, whatever, but I just ignored them. And I got a lot of realtors, saying, hey, I got houses for you. I'm like, no, thank you. And so it was probably a month before I got this girl to message me. Her and her husband, she actually wasn't on the loan. So even though she was the one to call me, they had a VA loan. It was a pretty good interest rate, although that didn't factor in too much in this case. They owed $268, but I knew that the house was worth probably $330-ish. They were $7,000 behind. And, so I'm doing the math. I'm thinking 330 and 268. That seems like a good amount of equity, right?
Yep. On a sub-2 with a great interest rate.
It was less than I thought, but it was still some.
Important point here that we don't want to skip over. This was a VA loan, and we've talked about this a bunch, but we still get this question. In fact, we got this question this week in the $7 coaching group. Can you take a VA loan subject to? And the answer is absolutely. It's no different than any other. So sure you can.
There was nothing different.
Okay.
So this was the house. It was really, they were really hard on it, but it was a nice house. You can't really see that very well, I don't think. But, had a big open concept, whatever. You can see out this patio door back there that the backyard hadn't even been anything. It was all rocks and whatever. And then the fence, the neighbors had built the fence around their yards except for one other neighbor. So there was a big gap in the fence and different things. It wasn't quite finished. It was this big 2-story. It was super nice, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see the yard better there. And their carpet, you can see where their couch was. You see that?
Yeah.
That was a pretty dirty couch. He was a mechanic, and I guess he didn't wipe his feet very often. It was
I can't remember. Did you clean that or have to replace it? I can't remember.
I did have it cleaned, and it wasn't really good, so I had to replace it.
Right. Okay.
Which was part of what my repairs were.
So I remember, let's talk a little, let's back up for a second. I mean, we're talking about the deal here, but let's back up for a second. One of Jody's first coaching calls that she jumped on, she came in and that's one of the things that our students do. They talk about, sellers they're talking to, possible deals that they're doing. And you remember what you came on that night and what you said?
Well, yeah, I was like, I think I might have a good deal. And you said, do you have it under contract? And I said, no. And you're like, well, give me that number. I'm going to call him. And I was like, hey, he wasn't even there yet because the husband wasn't at the house. So it really wasn't my fault. But, I told her to have him be there and he just didn't show up. So what could I do?
Well, these people are getting a divorce. And another thing to note here is when you're dealing with a couple that are getting a divorce and you're buying their house, and that's one reason you really have to massage these transactions and get signatures as quickly as possible to get things done.
And I tried to, but he didn't show up. He wasn't being hostile or anything. He just, something came up.
Yeah.
So I contacted him and we met separately, like in a couple of days, and signed everything. He was more than willing to do it.
Right.
So anyway.
And Jody.
Huh?
And Jody, how did you, because we're going to talk a little bit about paperwork later, but how did you had him sign a deed like right out of the gate, didn't you?
I did. I just Googled one. It might not be the best way. I Googled one that was from Colorado, and I just replicated it and put the right information in it and did it myself. And he signed it in front of the notary, and that was all there was to it. It cost me $19 to file it, and that's it.
Okay.
So I did my own little self-closing, even though I kind of didn't know what I was doing, but it was right.
Right. Okay. Which takes us to, in What is the saying that everybody uses that is so true now? And that's that imperfect action beats perfect inaction every day. So
Well, you
she
know
gets
how
this.
I am. I just want to do it right now.
I know that is her thing. Let's just do it right now. So she meets with a seller. She gets a deed right out of the gate. The wife is still living in the house. Am I right?
She is.
And because she wants money to move.
And I promised to give them $2,000 to move, and they were fine. He was fine with that. I don't know if she was. We didn't talk about it with her, but so I have the deed. They didn't get any money or anything, so that wasn't an issue until the close. So I'm offering, like I'll rent you a truck if you, get going, go, and she didn't have anybody to help her move. So I went over there and helped her move. I helped her pack her stuff and load her truck. And in fact, one time she had to take her truck to the storage unit to unload it. And she asked me if I could watch her kids while she took the load over. I was like, okay, sure. The kids were cute. I didn't mind. They were good, but it was just, you do what you got to do, right?
Right.
You want that girl out of there. You babysit her kids for a half an hour. So anyway, where was I?
So another important point here is that in Colorado, the process can take a few months. And these people, when they called you, were 5 or 6 months behind.
They actually, the bank had not filed yet, actually.
Right.
So that's why they weren't on any other, investors' radars or anything, because they didn't show up anywhere.
Right.
She reached out to me. So let me go to the next slide, see where I'm at. Oh, I went too far. Anyway, so there was a few things that need to be done. I needed to replace the carpet. I needed to repair that fence or finish the fence, and a couple odds and ends. So, and they had tried to use a realtor, and the realtor told them, you need to fix all this stuff or we won't list it. I'm like, so I thought that's why they didn't want to use a realtor. And so I said I can take care of it. So that was no problem. Anyway, so I found a realtor. Actually, I tried to FSBO it for a little bit, but I wasn't getting enough traction. I needed to kind of be in a hurry. I didn't have, it was in foreclosure, and I didn't have really money to make those payments for very long.
And they hadn't filed the foreclosure, so you didn't have to reinstate this thing.
No, I didn't.
I mean, you'd filed a deed from your seller, but you had not reinstated the mortgage.
So it was still in default, but it hadn't been filed yet. And so I knew there was no real quick, it wasn't going to go back to the bank real soon.
Right.
So I knew I had a few months, because it takes a little while in Colorado to go back to the bank. So I knew I had a little bit of time to sell it. And I didn't make payments because I couldn't afford to, but it didn't matter because it would have just got all paid off at the end. So I listed it for $230 or something. $330, and I got an offer for $325, which I was okay with. It cost me about $10 to replace the carpet and do the fence. And I sodded the front yard too, because it was completely dead. I paid the realtor $16,000. The payoff ended up being $275 after all the arrears and everything. And by the way, right before closing, the bank did file. So then I had a bunch more, attorney's fees to pay. I would have had a little better check. And $24,000. That's what I got.
$24,000.
That's why William married me. He wanted my $24,000.
Well, and that was the joke for a long time, because her first coaching.
We started dating after this deal.
Yeah.
Of course, I was apparently the favorite student in the class, but we didn't start to date or anything until after that. So every time he'd be flirting with me, I'd be like, "You're just after my $24,000." So anyway.
So Juan had a question here, I think. Let's go ahead and get Juan's question up. I don't remember if you said what you actually paid for it. They owed $286, 7 in arrears, and ARV $330. How much equity did you give them?
I gave them nothing. I gave them $2,000 actually.
Right. Because that's all he asked for.
Yeah, they didn't want anything. And in fact, he said, "Well, if you could just give us enough money for her to move." And I said, "Yeah, that's no problem." Yeah. So I just I offered him what the balance was basically. And the payoff was $275, I believe. So
right.
268 plus the arrears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what's so important, guys, and what you need to remember, especially if you haven't done your first Sub2, is and Jody talked about this in her first deal that she ever did, when she made $6,000. It's not about the amount of the profits you make. It's the fact that you followed a recipe. Someone explained to you how to walk through a process. You walked through that process and you walked away with a check. It is proof of concept. Am I correct? Because today, Jody, you do Sub2 deals where you make $70,000, where you make six figures, where more.
And
But
after I closed that first deal, and we still weren't dating yet, but I messaged you and I said, "Why didn't you tell me about this 10 years ago?" Which you did, but I didn't listen.
Because she thought we did talk about it a lot then, but she said it was crazy.
And I was like, it's crazy. Nobody would do that. I feel like you're just stealing people's houses.
Okay, so you got a question from Tara here about the initial conversation. How did your initial conversation go? You made your post in the group. The wife called you and told you about the problem, but how is that conversation? What magic phrases do you use to get a seller to say, "Oh, okay, you can have my house"?
I will tell you that I didn't have to hardly say anything. They just wanted to get out. And this is what was so surprising to me, is like, I didn't have to talk them into anything. They just wanted to get out of it without a foreclosure, and that's it. And I said, so if I could just take it over and fix it up a little bit and sell it, is that what you want? And she said, yeah, that's all we want. I didn't have to talk her into anything. Yeah. I mean, they were behind. They were going to lose it eventually. Mm-hmm. They didn't care. They just wanted to not have that foreclosure. He had a VA loan. He didn't want to really, I'm not even sure how it was then, if that would have hurt his chances of having another VA loan. I don't quite know that.
It absolutely will. If they default on a VA loan, not only can it hurt them, it can hurt them in their career.
And that's why he just didn't want a foreclosure. Right. So, I don't know all of the rules on that, but I just knew he didn't want to have that. It was a VA loan. So I said, I didn't say I would take over payments, because I wasn't going to. I said, I'll just fix it up. If you just deed it to me. And I didn't say it exactly like that, because that's a little too lingo-ish. But I said, if you just sign it over to me, I'll fix it up and I'll sell it before the foreclosure happens. And he's like, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. That was it.
Right. Juan's question here. This is a great question. When you begin by saying I can pay full asking price, how do you get folks that walk away for $2,000?
Well, their house wasn't in good shape. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can pay full asking price, but but I'm not going to pay full asking price for a house that's all beat up.
They didn't even have an asking price, and you'll find that out a lot, Juan. Okay, it's like our marketing. My bandit sign has not changed in 25 years. It says, fast cash, we'll pay cash for houses. How many times do you think I actually pay cash for a house? Very rarely. My job in marketing is to make the phone ring. Now, that doesn't mean that I mislead people.
No, because you can do that if the situation is right.
But think about a situation where someone, and we see this, and you're going to see it more and more now. Someone bought a house a year and a half ago, height of COVID. They overpaid for their house. Now prices are flattening a little bit. They don't have any equity. There's been no further appreciation. Maybe they bought a house at the time that was worth $250 and they paid $270, and now the house is still worth $270. Those people have no equity. We can buy those houses all day long with a 3% interest rate and turn them into a rental or an Airbnb, or sell them with seller financing and make a lot of money. I can pay full price for a house, but most of the sellers that we speak to, you are going to have the retail need to be with a realtor type people, or too cheap to pay a realtor. But our sellers, and this is why listening is so important. You listen to their conversation, and then a favorite thing of mine is, so what I hear you saying is you'd sell the house for what you owe on it. Oh yeah. Okay, there we
That's
are.
basically what, I don't know if I worded it that exact way, but that's what I said to the husband. And he said, yeah, it's fine. He says, I just want to be done with it.
It's listening. It's listening for cues. It's listening for key phrases.
I
really
wasn't
just
sure
need
what to
to get rid
listen
of it.
for then, but they were so the perfect whatever. Like I didn't have to maneuver or try to explain or massage anything. They were just like, just take it. Just take my house.
And I'll tell you another thing.
It blew my mind.
A lot of times people don't get caught up into a sales price. They get caught up into how much they want to walk away with.
Right.
Our last deal was like that. It didn't matter to them that the house was worth, and I don't know, I think you looked the other day and said you feel like it's worth about 230 now. It didn't matter to them that they owed 100. They wanted $10,000.
If it would have been worth $1 million and they would have said, I need 10,000. I mean, maybe not that, but they didn't really probably even know what the numbers were.
Right.
They just wanted 10,000 to move.
Right. And when the house did need work, I mean, we're rehabbing the house right now. So it's not like it was a pristine house that they only wanted 10 and they would walk away. They wanted $10,000.
They knew that. In fact, when we said, is there anything wrong with the house? He said, oh yeah. He knew there was plenty wrong with it. So he wasn't expecting top dollar.
So really, Juan, it's about listening. It's you generate calls, and that's what Jody's ad did. She said, "Hey, I'm looking for a house to buy. I can pay full price. It doesn't have to be in great condition." Those key things got that girl to call because remember, they had already tried to list with a realtor, and a realtor said, "You got to fix all this stuff."
And I can pay full price with terms, but I didn't do terms. I just paid cash. I mean,
right. You have solutions. You get them to call you, or you call them. You listen to their story, and then you find a solution that fits and that gives them. They got the moving money they wanted for the ex-wife. They got that VA foreclosure taken care of. Jody fixed the house. A new family got a nice home. She made a little bit of a profit. It worked for everybody.
And he was happy that he avoided that foreclosure for sure. Right. He thanked me up and down at the closing.
Yeah. She saved them from further potential problems. And they got to live in the house for several months for free before that because they weren't making payments. Right?
Right. They didn't 6 or 7 months. Yep.
So great deal. And what to you, I mean, I know you had to get past the concept because you told me this when we started talking. First, you had to accept the fact that somebody would even do this and then get out there and just try to do it. And you winged the paperwork. I mean, you really did. But so how did that figure? Did that worry you, the paperwork part? Was that a challenge for you?
Well, as you know, I called my coach every time I did something so I could make sure it was okay.
Yes, she did. And that deal may be what got me talking to her because we talked a lot. I know we were.
I was like, okay, I don't know what to. Even when they're like, we were about to close on the selling side, and I was like, they want my articles of incorporation. Like, I don't think I have those.
Yeah.
And so you're like, let me do it. I don't think you do for every student, but yeah.
No, I'm already married. I'm taken now, so I can't marry anybody.
Anyway, I think that all that talking about that deal was like where the flirting kind of started to happen. Yeah. But anyway.
So, I mean, just, this is just really, really typical. I mean, and there's so many people out there in these kind of problems right now and with other problems too that, but just a really good example about how you can start. I think somebody even commented today, a Facebook user, this is helpful info today, especially when you can't afford the payments, and especially when you can't refi if they call the loan due. How can you be confident doing subject to. Yes, absolutely, you can. I say wholesale. I can't keep up with all these fancy new terms everybody's got now for stuff, but we wholetailed, or I don't know what they are, several Sub2s this past year. Just listed them and sold them.
So when put that back up there. When you can't afford the payments, I mean, they wouldn't call the note due. I mean, that's what the foreclosure was doing.
Okay, I see. I see where the question is. How can you be confident if you can't afford the payments, and especially can't refi if they call the note due on sale? How can you be confident? First of all, understand that the chances of the loan being called due are very, very, very small. Can it happen? Yes. If they do call the loan due, you have some other options. You can try to work with the bank on assuming it, try to list it for sale. If there's not any equity, and you can make sure the bank knows that too. There's a possible short sale. You've got a lot of options available for you.
You can bring in other people, there's a lot of ways to get out of that, but it's like saying, how do you avoid lightning? I mean,
and I'll tell you this,
avoid lightning, but it's rare.
We had a deal, actually a student had it. They called us and it was out of our area, so we passed it along to a student. And my advice to the student, and I'm not even sure if she did that, I know she was in conversation with them. These people wanted to give this house away, but and I told her, I said, if we took it, we would tell the seller up front, listen, we may buy your house from you, but we're only going to do it if we can find a buyer. If we can't, give us 30 days, 45 days, whatever the case is. If we can find a buyer.
I was uncertain. I would tell them that right up front, that I will try to do something with this.
Right.
And if I can't do it, I'm sorry, I can't. Yeah. But I'm going to try to find a buyer.
That's
I didn't tell them that in this case because I was pretty sure this would go. It was hot market.
Yeah, and you had enough of a spread there. You knew that
I could come down a little more if I had to, and I already did come down. I actually think I started out at 339, and I sold it for 325. So I already did come down.
I remember that conversation when you said, "Hey, I've got this lower offer, but you hadn't had it listed long. Should I take it?" And I said, "If you got it."
But I was getting a little nervous because the foreclosure had been filed now, and I didn't want fees racking up, and so I was under a little pressure because, I didn't have the reserves or resources to take care of that. But anyway, yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. So I think Tara has another question. To determine ARV, do you just jump on Zillow and go with the estimate price? I have PropStream, but some properties aren't on there.
Well, I always use Zillow first just to get the ballpark. And then if I need it to be more certain, well, at that time I had a license, so I just did my own comps, or I'll get a couple realtors to give me more precise comps if I need it. PropStream isn't that precise either.
Right.
I use that for other things too. I use that for, another ballpark, I guess, but sometimes they're pretty far off too. But I just use that for like, how long has it been owned and different things like that. But,
and we should mention this. I think it's already in the show notes. And if you're watching this, obviously live, you won't get it. But later on the replay, I think we're going to have a link up here somewhere. I'm not sure where it's going to go.
Probably right.
Yeah. That's actually going to have a link to another video on a 90-day action plan that will walk you through the steps that you need to take to actually get your first deal in 90 days, which I'm telling you, anybody on here can do. You just need to follow a few key steps to get that done. Just carrying on with what Jody was just saying, she was a broker. She had access to the MLS. You need to do everything that you can do to get access to the MLS, short of getting a license. I don't recommend for anybody to get a license. And I never have. I've never had a real estate license. I never will have a real estate license. But there are plenty of ways to get access. And the best way is to just get another agent to give it to you. And a lot of times,
become an unlicensed assistant.
right. And that is a lot of times just as easy as asking. I've never failed to be able to get access to,
or get your spouse to do it, but I just don't want to do it now.
Right. Sure. Yeah. I wouldn't. There are too many, in my opinion, there are too many liabilities. And gosh, we know it's just so uncertain today in the realtor space.
And it's a lot of money and a lot of red tape and a lot of pain in the butt.
Yeah.
To keep your license. It's just, and then you have to do all these, ridiculously excessive, what do you call them? Disclaimers and all that.
Right. I mean, technically, every advertisement you do, whether it's an ad in Facebook, whether it's an ad in newspaper, whether it's a radio ad, whether it's a bandit sign, is supposed to have a disclosure about you being a licensed real estate.
Even if it's not listing a house.
Yeah. Just I buy houses. By the way, I'm a licensed real estate agent. And I actually know people who have been turned in by other agents.
Oh, they love to tell on each other.
Oh man, they eat their own. It's vicious out there. PropStream, we love PropStream and use it for a ton of stuff, but its accuracy and value today, ever since COVID happened, man, it is slow to respond. And they blame the courthouses and updating and tax rolls and those things. I don't know what their problem is, but today during COVID, the prices were low. Now I find most of their prices to be overvalued. Maybe they'll catch up, but I wouldn't trust them. I would trust Zillow first, for sure. Okay. I got another question from Juan. I think, I know Facebook groups are great, but Sub2 sellers aren't very common in the RE investor page. It's very smart to go with Army Wives. What made you post in that particular place?
Because I wanted a VA loan. I think because they were so plentiful, and honestly, the VA loans are kind of easier because they don't put anything down. They're less attached to, the outcome with that. They move a lot anyway. It's just, they're not as like in love with their house because they move a lot. They're not as, they don't have any skin in the game usually. So VA loans are kind of my preferred, honestly. So I went into the Army Wives page for that reason.
Right.
But I go into other ones too. If there's like a what's happened in Colorado Springs or something like that, I go in there too. Anything that's a kind of a community thing, garage sales, stuff like that. It doesn't have to be just wives.
For sure. But you are right. Stay out of the investor groups. You need to stay out of those almost typically anyway. I mean, you're not going to find a deal.
And I don't even think go on. I mean, you can, but the houses for sale or, like FSBO, whatever. I mean, sometimes a seller will go in there, but again, you'll get attacked by realtors.
Yeah. Any city, yard sale, community group, Army Wives, buy, sell, and trade, anything where people gather to buy stuff.
Buy trades are a little more vicious too. They just are. But just go into anything. Honestly, do whatever. Go into any group you can think of. And if you don't get any response, you don't. If you get kicked out, you do. I mean, what the heck? It's free.
Yeah, and don't overdo it. Just commit this week to adding yourself to a couple of new groups locally, wherever you do business. And then every week, once a week, go in and copy and paste that post. Hey, I'm looking for a fixer-upper. If anybody knows, you saw her ad. Very simple. Make it your own. Have a few variations. People know who you are.
Add a picture of a house if you want. Yeah. I found that I got more response without a picture, but that doesn't mean that in a different town it might be different. You just never know.
I'm telling you, looking like the great big flashy real estate investor chest thumping company is not going to serve you well in those groups. Being just a guy or gal looking for a house to buy.
I'm not positive of this either, but I think me being a girl was a little helpful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you can have your wife make the posts or something, maybe try that.
Because people think girls are less threatening.
Right.
They're wrong. They're wrong.
Right.
Right. Okay. Matt said something about Craigslist post. Man, I haven't been on Craigslist in so long because that place just got so eat up with scammers. But listen, if he, this is not recreating the wheel. If you know, so, and I'm not talking about just somebody that says they do a bunch of stuff and they really don't. But if you know for a fact, somebody local that you know is working, duplicate it. I don't say copy them, make it your own, do what they do. That's a very famous Tony Robbins line, success leaves clues. So,
well, here's what he said earlier, if you missed that.
Yeah. To follow your master steps. You do, Matt. Why aren't you in one of our groups? Matt hangs out here with us on Goat Talk and everything. He needs to join one of our groups, man. You need to come to one of our masterminds.
We always tell him that, and he never will.
He never will. Gosh. He should
He doesn't like his $7 worth.
To get out there and buy some houses. I promise you, a $7 group, I'll give you $7. Ask Juan. Ask Juan if Juan's on here. Do you feel like you
Matt,
get
it's
your money
$7 a
out
month.
of that group? Huh?
Matt, it's $7 a month.
Yeah, $7.
One Starbucks.
One Starbucks. And listen, you're talking to people with a major Starbucks habit.
Right.
I went through my credit card statement the other night and I said, listen, we need to go to rehab or something. We got a problem. We got a Starbucks problem. But anyway. Okay. So great job on her first deal. She came in there. She just did stuff. She talked to the seller.
That's exactly it. That is the big secret is just do what somebody tells you to do. Don't do what a lot of people tell you to do, because they, that if you're building a house and you're mixing this guy's plan and this guy's plan, it isn't going to work. Just pick one person, because otherwise they'll conflict a little bit. Not that either one are wrong, but they won't mesh together necessarily. Right. So pick one person. And of course I recommend William, but pick anybody and do exactly what they tell you. That's all there is to it. I picked a different person when I did short sales, and I did exactly what he told me. And I did it. I did a couple of them until I got sick of them. Yep. The third short sale I did took so long and it was so much work. I decided to switch gears, but they worked because I just did what they said.
For sure. Okay. So great job. Okay, guys. Y'all have.
Wait, back up 1 minute though.
Sure.
I am a person who has analysis paralysis. I have a big fear of failure. And I just decided at one time, I'm just going to effing do it. I'm just going to do what it says. But I'm a very fearful person by nature. I'm a lot better now because obviously once you do things, you're not afraid anymore. But it took me a long time to get to that point. I think it took me like 2 years before I got my first deal. Because I was scared. I had to learn more and learn more. And actually, I've been reading about and dabbling in real estate for 10 years, but I didn't really make any effort until, 2 years before that deal. But I'm not like William. William's just bold. He just, I'm going to do this thing, and he doesn't have any fear. I had a lot of fear in the, 10 years ago. Yeah. Or heck, it was longer than that. It was 15 years ago. I had a lot of fear. And I also didn't have a big support system, although I don't think you did either. But you don't care. I didn't have a good support system. I had a lot of people telling me, "Oh, be careful. That's risky. It's dangerous." And and so I was like, okay, and that slowed me down. But finally, I was just like, screw it, I'm doing it.
It doesn't have to be as risky if you have people around you that we'll lead you in the right
And I
direction.
didn't have a lot of people around me that knew what they were doing or what I was trying to do. So I did feel like I didn't have a good support system. But when I started to get involved in, investor groups and stuff, then I was like, okay, now I can ask people some stuff, right? So
we tell there are deals every single day we tell students to pass on. That is not a deal. You do not want that. It doesn't make sense. Don't touch it. Because what the important thing with us is certainty. It's just certainty of profit. I think Amanda has a comment. It's her big jump to get over to. Thanks for the honesty, Jody. It helps a ton.
I have this story that my cousin is part of. My cousin Kim. When we were kids, she's the more fearless cousin. We're the same age, but we grew up together, and we were going to this creek, and there was a rope swing that swung from high up in a tree and across this little creek and just swung back and forth. And she got up there and she did it and swung across, and she's like, okay, now it's your turn. We were 10 years old. And so I climb up the ladder, and I'm up there, and I'm like, I can't do it. I'm going to swing across, and I'm going to swing back, and I'm going to hit the tree. And she's like, no, you won't do it. And I was too scared. So I climbed back down. She did it again. She goes, see, you don't hit the tree. And she was getting irritated with Shelly. And so then I climbed back up again, and I sat in that tree for an hour, and I climbed back down and went home without doing it. And that's kind of how my life was for a long time. I was too afraid to do anything. I can't tell you exactly what it was that made me not feel that way anymore, where I could go, you know what, I'm just going to leap, and I'm just going to take the swing and swing. I never did it with the actual swing, but I have done it with other things. And I mean, that was the way I lived for a long time. I guess maybe some of it's your environment. You got people who are saying, oh, be careful, you're going to get hurt, you're going to lose money, you're going to this or that. But I finally decided, I don't care. I'm just going to do it. So that's the rope swing story.
And you do it. Now we talk about something new. I'm the thinker. I'm not necessarily scared to do it, but I have to process.
You're more of a planner, and I'm like, let's just do it.
Yeah, let's just do it right now. That's what she says. Let's do it right now all the time. Juan had a comment here. It's a great mentorship program. Thanks so much, Juan. We really appreciate that. I just need to get better on my marketing and my bedside.
Are you talking to these sellers in bed?
Doorside manner. I'm telling you, Juan, that is just a developed skill for learning to read people.
And it's not, you don't have to have it be perfect.
Right.
Those people that I talked to on my first deal, my Sub2 deal, it wouldn't have mattered if I said everything wrong. If you just keep going till you find the person who don't give a crap about it, they'll buy that. They'll sell it to you anyway.
That's the biggest. I just need to get rid of it. Man, I'm listening for those things. I need to sell it right now. I just need to get rid of it. And
I could have said everything wrong, probably.
I have a comment to go along with Jody. Randy, you want to come in here? I think that's Randy.
Get your camera on.
Can you hear me?
Randy's like the Little Rock house whisperer.
Yeah, that's right.
Buys I don't know how many houses a month down there. So
not as many as I have. Sometimes more than others. Can you hear me? Okay.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Okay. So what Jody was just talking about being the fear of like swinging back to the tree, it hits everybody. We're closing in about 2 hours on a $700,000 house.
Woo.
Now,
that's big money down there, isn't it?
It is. And it's a Sub2. And I had to change my mindset because it's like, okay, our market's a little rocky right now. We don't know which way it's going to go. This thing could go south. And a $700,000 house might go south big time.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, it's really not a $700,000 house. It's a $33,000 catch up the mortgage house and a $50,000 rehab house. So I'm going to have less than $100,000 in it. And I've got $100,000 to $125,000 profit after all expenses and everything, which is a lot of downside protection. So I'm really buying a $100,000 house to make $100,000 profit, which is more than what we normally do. We buy a $100,000 house and maybe make 40 or 50. Mm-hmm. So you have to change your mindset and really evaluate what you're looking at. So I'm with you. The fear of hitting the tree, you know, and I had to get my head back around that and think about it differently than a $700,000 house.
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
Now, in my defense, I was 10 years old.
Okay. Well, I'm 64, so that's kind of like being 10 sometimes.
Hey, if anybody listening here is down in the Little Rock area or whatever, y'all need to go check out Randy. Randy runs a RIA down there. How can they learn more about that?
Go to ARCREIA, A-R-K for Arkansas, REIA.com.
Right.
Got our calendar there. Our meeting's next week on Thursday. And I won't be there, but Charlie is actually hosting the meeting. They're talking about tax deeds. I'm going to be at North Carolina State visiting college with my daughter.
Oh, nice.
And our last one, and then we'll be making decisions.
Yeah.
But and then next month we have Mr. Land Trust, Randy Hughes, speaking about land trust. And in June, I am going to be talking about 401ks and Roth IRAs and why everybody should be doing that.
Oh, so, I want to go to that one.
Yeah. I hate we got to miss Randy Hughes next month. I like Randy a lot. We used to speak for them in Chicago years ago.
Yep. But so if you're in the area and you're not a member, you can come the first time for free, and then you can join or pay a monthly amount. So we'd love to have you there.
Do y'all do any stuff online? I know during COVID, I think you did, but do y'all still stream for people that want to have a membership and be online?
The only meeting that we have in person is the main monthly meeting, the second Thursday of each month. Mm-hmm. The other 4 meetings that we have are all online. We have a quick start for beginners, which was last night, first Monday of every month. The third Monday of every month is wholesaling and deal structuring. Then we have a landlording and note investing, and we have a ladies only group. But all that's on the calendar.
Right. Okay. ARCREIA, ARKREIA.com. Okay. Awesome. Yep. Well, thanks for jumping in, man. Good to see you.
Yeah. But anyway, just don't hit the tree.
That's right.
You know what?
Let go of the road.
You won't hit the tree. Just believe him.
That's right.
Yeah. Let go of the road.
And now also, if you hit the tree, how hard could it be? It's a bump, about a skin knee.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for jumping in, Randy. We appreciate it. It's good to see you. All right. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, let's see. Another question. Let's see. We have another comment. Amanda said, love that because we have big price tags in my area. You got to focus on the numbers. That's right. If the numbers are there, Amanda, I know we've talked about that. You need to be on the call tonight, actually, Amanda. We miss you. So join us there on the call. You know, one of the biggest issues that newer investors, I think, have, and I know, you know, Jody, of course, she totally winged her deal here, is paperwork and the complications that involve the paperwork. What paperwork do I use? We actually put together a program a little while back that covers all of the paperwork that we use with our deals. And I've been doing this stuff for 25 years.
You didn't have that when I was doing my deal.
Didn't have that when you got, that's right. I didn't have it. It's pretty recent. But it's called Contract to Close. We're going to share a link with you here where you can check that out. You can go to sub2deals.com/CTC and check that out. Every document we use in a Sub2 transaction and explainer video telling you how to fill them out. So you don't have to worry about that stuff anymore.
That would have been so helpful.
Yeah. So you guys go check that out.
You were helpful anyway. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
that would have been great. I mean, I would have known what to do and how to do it instead of pestering you all the time. Of course, maybe we wouldn't be married now.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that's going to be it for us. We appreciate you joining us. Check out that other video that we shared with you, the 90 90-day action plan. Get your next deal in 90 days or less. You can do it. And subscribe if you're over here.
I'm the tree swing. Scared of that.
Yeah. Jody let go of the rope, man, and made $24,000. But you're here if you're here on our YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe to us, sub2tv.com. We'd love to have you. We release a lot of videos, and we'd love to have you on here to talk about your first deal. We can do that. So, okay, we're out.
All right.
Have a fantastic
baby. Huh? Hasta la vista, baby.
That's right. You guys get out there, talk to some sellers, and you will buy
a house already.
Buy a house already. All right. See you next time.